And welcome back to Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, the show where the strange, the unexplained, and the weird take center stage, and where the people behind the encounters matter just as much as the encounters themselves. We're not here just to talk about what was seen. We're here to understand who saw it, how it changed them, and why it still matters. Before we dive in, a quick shout out to our supporters over on Patreon. If you want to help keep the show independent, ad-free, and unapologetically weird, head over to Patreon. You'll find members-only episodes, early access to the public episodes, and bonus material you won't see or hear anywhere else. If you've had an encounter or something weird that you've never been able to explain, I want to hear from you. Email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. That's mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Your experience could be featured on a future episode. Don't forget to mark your calendars. June 6, 2026. I'll be speaking at the Arkansas Cryptid Fest in North Little Rock, Arkansas. If you're into cryptids, folklore, and listening to great speakers, that's where you need to be. It's put on by Drunken Cryptids. I'll be there along with a lot of your other favorite podcasters. If you haven't already, make sure you're subscribed, like, comment, leave a review, share the show with a friend who lives for the unexplained. As we come to the end of the first year for Myths, Monsters, and Mullets, I wanted to take a look back at this season and reflect on how the show has evolved from just a TikTok-style live show to what it's become today. As you know, I don't have a co-host, so I invited Alan from Nevermore Hollows to come help me celebrate what has been an amazing first year. The result is 3 episodes of clips from the most interesting guests, the best encounters, and the friends we've made along the way. While you don't have to listen to them in order, I do highly recommend it. And with that, let's start the show.
Out in the woods, shadows creep slow. Footprints deep where no man should go. Cold winds howl through hollers and brooks. Whispers of Bigfoot in the way it looks. Myths, monsters, and mullets in the night. Under a pale moon, strange glowing light. Truth out there like a blade it cuts. Myths, monsters, and mullets run amok.
So, he come back on and again, that conversation went a little bit everywhere.
Yeah.
But people stuck around and, it was very well received. So yeah, I got to put Maxim Furyk in on that list of top guests. And then, going back to the human interest part of it and where it kind of evolved. I think one of the first episodes where you really get to see that is the episodes with the Sasquatch.
Yeah, that was a good one. That was a fun one. Yeah.
I had them all on at one time, and then I had each one of them coming in individually. And I don't think people expected it, but I specifically told them when they came on, I don't want to talk about Bigfoot.
Yeah.
And
which is odd because they literally, that's what they do, right? Yes.
Right. But
it's even in their name.
Right. They got to show their another part of themselves that they don't get to show on other shows. And I think they respected that. And I think the audience did too, because they got to learn more about these women that they see. It's Sasquatch all the time. But no, it's not. That there's more to them than just the Bigfoot stuff.
Well, I like to, one of the things I like listening to is when you kind of get around, you ask it in different ways, but how did you get into it? And, a lot of times the stories are very similar. When I was a kid, I really I watched whatever. But, sometimes they get into it in a different way. And that's kind of like the She Squatchers, their stories about how they got together and how one actually started it, and then it kind of evolved in, it wasn't a direct path of like, hey, let's all become she squatchers, right?
Right.
But hearing how different people get into what they're, to this kind of, genre is always interesting. So I like, because you don't always get that. I listen to some episodes, or some other podcasters. Well, they never ask, how did you, what experiences caused you to get into this? They just want to talk about the experiences after, let's talk about, the expeditions you've been on, or, what encounter you have. Rarely do you hear, why did you get into it?
In my dreams, I fly and I fly over places and I see them from above, right? And when I have prophetic dreams, I'm flying over a place and then I drop down to a spot. So when I am actually looking to see where that actually is, I can actually locate that area because I've seen it from above, right? So anyway, I had found a woman who had been missing, and I didn't know she was missing. I didn't know anything about her. I started dreaming about, I was flying through the air and I saw my aunt's house on the river. She lived by Thief River Falls, Minnesota, outside of town. And so I saw my aunt's house and I'm flying over the river and I'm counting the bends of the river towards town. And then down in the water, I dive into the river. And I was always trying to get down to the thing that sunk so I could drive it back up. That was my dream. I was trying to get down to the thing that sunk so I could drive it back up. And I would always wake up and go, that is the stupidest thing ever. You can't drive up something after it sinks, right? And I'd be like, oh, so dumb. But I kept having that dream over and over. And I would count the bends in the river from my aunt's house towards town. And then I'd dive into the river, into the same spot. And I always wake up because I can't get down there to drive the thing up that sunk. But it happened so many times that I called my cousin who lives next to her mother on the river, and my cousin knows that I'm gifted. Her mother wasn't so open to it. Um, so I called my cousin and I said, "Hey, do you think there's anything in the river?" And and her sister is also gifted, but is scared of it. So she always said, if you want to know something, if she's sensing something, ask me and I'll find out. I'm like, all right. I'm like, find out from your sister if she's sensing anything in the river. She called me back. She said she's not sensing anything in the river. I said, well, I think there's something down there. Is the ice still good? Could I come out there with my husband's ice auger and my camera and stick it down there? I was hoping it was a treasure of some kind, right? I'm always thinking something positive. It's got to be something great, right? So she's like, no, the ice is breaking up. You can't do that. And I'm like, dang it. So I told her where it was exactly. I said, this is exactly where it is. There's something down there in the river. There's something down there. Told her my dream, trying to drive up something that sunk. I said, I know it sounds stupid, but it's happening over and over and over again. I don't know how much time passed from that phone call. Maybe it was a month. My cousin called, crying. They found her. They found her. She was right where you said she'd be. What are you talking about? Right? She's like, they found Gina Anderson right where you said she'd be. I go, who is Gina Anderson? What are you talking about? And she was a girl who had been missing. I don't watch the news. I didn't know she had been missing a year and a half. I didn't know that anybody was missing. I don't live there. Um, and she had gone missing. And here she had a seizure apparently and drove into the river. And she was in her car at the bottom of the river right there, where I kept trying to drive up something that sunk. And she was in her car. So that was like the first dead body that I found. And I didn't
You
even
said
know I was
first?
hunting it. Yeah, yeah, that was the first one.
So that implies there's
Uh,
more?
yeah, there's more. There's more. I don't like to find dead people.
We've seen gnomes.
Mm-hmm.
What else have you seen while you're out there?
Sometimes we see, like, sometimes we'll go visit Randy Bauer's place, and Jen has seen some really interesting things out there. I don't know if you talked to her about that. Randy has seen some things. I believe there's fairies out there. These all of these creatures are existing, and we're finding them more and more. I can't remember. I can't remember what we found.
That's all
I'm
right.
so sorry.
All right.
This is the hard part with memory loss. It's just you can get certain things, but you can't.
So we were talking before we started recording that you do suffer from memory loss. Could you
Yes.
go into that a little bit, or is that too personal?
No, I'm definitely can go into it. I'm actually trying to heal from everything. So, because of the coma in 2009, I had to try to regain my memory and I had to learn to walk and talk again. And now I have endured some seizures and some other issues, medicine that hasn't been available. So, what that's done for me is that has basically taken my past and jumbled it all up, and I can't find anything. At one point, someone would ask me a question, and it wouldn't matter what the question. They could say, what color is the sky?" And I would go into my brain, like I would try to think, and it was black. There was nothing but empty black, like a void. And it was the scariest thing. And people don't understand how important memories are to who you are. For a long time, I just hid and I let Jen and Tammy do all the talking because I couldn't remember things. I couldn't remember our events. I couldn't remember, the different expeditions that we were going on, where we were, who we were with. So this is something that's really affected my life. And I just appreciate you for kind of cutting it up and making sure that I don't sound silly.
Well, I will do my best. I mean, it's like, normally I release everything and maybe cut out some personal information. But we've already talked about this. There will be some cuts in this, so
Thank you.
it kind of will help explain to the audience, why there's so many edits in this. But
Yes.
I
Well,
appreciate you, telling the audience,
oh
that part of
yeah.
your life. But how long were you in the coma?
I was in the coma, oh my goodness, a week or two, I think.
Oh, wow.
I know I was in the hospital, maybe it was a week. I don't remember how long I was in the coma, but I know I was in the hospital for over 3 weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah. And I had to, like I said, I had to learn to walk and talk again. When I first came out of the coma, I had no motor functions. So this was me trying to point because I couldn't talk. And when I tried to write, my eyes and my brain, it made it so tiny that no one could read it, but I could see it, but no one else could see it. Um, I forgot the question all of a sudden.
It was just how long you were in the coma.
Oh, yeah, sorry. I probably at least a week, and then I was in the hospital for 2 more weeks.
Wow.
So, yeah, they didn't think I was going to come out of it. They I kept trying to pull the tube out, I guess. And I was being very feisty. My sister was being so kind. She was like, "Jenny had a good day today." Meanwhile, I'm going, ah, but I wasn't, when you're medicated and you're coming out of a coma. Because when I was in the coma, there was so much going on. I actually saw my life review room. I was in the life review room. It's pretty neat. It was a tiny little room, and I came in through the door, and the first thing I did was I looked to my left, and the walls were full of pictures and videos, black and white and color. And I was like looking at them thinking, what the heck? And some of these things, some of these people I knew, some people I didn't recognize. And then I started realizing that it was all over the walls, like it was all like wallpapered with my life and my people. And I noticed there was a woman in the corner of the room. She was a little black lady. She's just tiny. And she was very old. And she said, "You're seeing this, aren't you?" And I said, "Yes." And she goes, "You shouldn't be." And she guided me out the door to the left. So I was like, okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Holy cow.
Yeah. Life is very interesting.
Yeah, I think though that a lot of times these people that are, super into the paranormal, especially ones that are either podcasters or so-called celebrities,
Yeah.
everybody knows their big encounter and that's what everybody wants to hear about.
Yeah.
But 90% of the time they've had a lot more that happened before and after that
Yeah.
that people don't normally hear about. And that's what I want to hear about. I want to hear about something new.
Yes, and you said that here, gosh, months ago. You said that to me, and I went, "All right, this guy knows what he's doing. He's figured it out." I want to get, if you get the big name on there, they've been on 100 other podcasts telling that big story. What are the others? And that's very clever. That's very good.
And one of those was Todd Neese during the episode. He even said it. He's like, "You're getting an exclusive here. I don't normally tell this part of the story."
Yeah, yeah.
Because I pushed past his normal encounter, and we found out more stuff about him. So, do you think that you say it was your sergeant or whatever that came up and asked you? Did you happen to see those things? Do you feel like he had already had an encounter? Like he already knew they existed?
Oh, no, not at all. Jeff was just as surprised as I was. But yeah, we were both like, oh my God. But no, I know in talking with him, and we've kept in touch over the last 32 years. And neither one of our stories have changed. Our accounts are dead on in the details, and they are slightly different. Jeff saw them in a little bit different window of time, and I say that, and I don't mention this very often. Nobody's ever asked, but when we had time later to talk about it after the fact. Jeff described seeing them walking. I did not see that. I said, "What are you talking about?" And he goes, "Yeah." He said, "When I saw them, they were walking out of that gravel quarry." And what's interesting is his description, because it's the classic description, and this very smooth, graceful, gliding sort of locomotion, similar to that of a cross-country skier, if you will, right? Where they're just shuffling their feet along the ground. It doesn't seem something in their body mechanics, their locomotion. They don't have that telltale head bounce that we do, that head bob as we walk. It's just very linear like this. And he said one thing I'll never forget. He said they weren't running, but in very few steps they ate up a lot of real estate. And as time's gone on, that seems to really fit the narrative of most people. I'm like, yeah, okay. But so in trying to figure out what time frame, when he saw them versus when I saw them, because they stood there like I told you, one, like a statue, and the two doing the rocking back and forth thing. And this gets really interesting because we were on two different teams. Jeff was part of the heavy equipment section, and they were tasked to stay one step ahead of us, right? So, for instance, when we got to that first blasted site, though, where we had those steel I-beams that we had to blast in half with C4, steel I-beams don't grow out in the woods. They had come up and placed them there. And then we came in to do our thing. They moved on up to the second site where they would place these inert training mines in this mock minefield that, again, once they set up that scenario, we would come in and do our thing. At that point, they were going up to that third site and with a small excavator digging a little starter hole, if you will, a little pit for us to do that, to put that ammonium nitrate in. So as it turns out, couple interesting things. It's kind of funny. I really have not discussed this in probably over 100 podcasts, but it's important. I think details are so important. when I talk to people that have sightings, I want, when they start going into details like I am here, which seem completely extraneous to the sighting, I know they're telling the truth. Because why would you talk about, mom and dad unpacking the sandwiches at the picnic table at the park and they were peanut butter and jelly and blah, blah, blah. You don't go into that kind of, it's like, there they were. But anyway, back to our story. So timing wise, Jeff said that we had set the charges at that second site, the minefield, blew it up, and then they went up ahead of us with the small excavator to dig that hole while we were still down at that safety area. And that's when Jeff saw them. That's when he saw them walking. Because when he told me they were walking, I'm like, whoa, whoa, back it up. They weren't walking. Oh, yeah, they were. Okay, when did you see? So it turns out Jeff saw them nearly 20 minutes before I did. And he saw them walking, whether they were walking into the site or out of the site, I'm not sure. But yeah, when he said, yeah, they were walking, and that classic description, I'm like, okay, back up the bus. Where were we? Where was I when that was going on? So you're getting an exclusive. And yeah, he said, well, you guys were still waiting for us to come back down to let you know we got the site prepped. So yeah, so there's that. But anyway.
So you were there the entire time that they were there.
Oh, they were, put it the other way. They were there the entire time. We were there. And then, so people ask me, they're like, do you think some of them were injured or even killed in your explosion? And I'm like, nah, I don't, I'm sure a few squirrels bit the dust, it had to be, some collateral damage, but I said, I don't, and then I started thinking about it. And here's another interesting little detail that I don't generally talk about. So I was a squad leader, Sergeant E5. So I had several troops that worked under me. So my job is to train them and make sure they're doing their job right. And this, after all, that's what this was training. So I'm teaching these guys how to insert a blasting cap into a 1.25 pound block of C4, how close to put it to the mine, how to run det cord into the ring main, clip into the ring main, and blah, blah, blah. So as we're doing that, what we're taught to train as if we're literally in a live combat situation. So that includes light discipline if it's nighttime. You don't want the enemy to spot you. Noise discipline for sure, day or night. You don't want them to hear you. Even trash litter discipline. You don't want to leave any evidence behind that we were there. Pick up everything. There's all kinds of little nuances that you got to be aware of. And so imagine I'm setting my own charges. My guys we're all down on our knees, bent over these mines, putting the blasting caps into the C4, putting them within 6 inches of the mine. And all of a sudden I heard this sound that was like, whoop! And I looked up and I was about ready to chew some ass because there goes the noise discipline, right? And I looked up, all of my boys are down on their knees, still doing their thing, and I didn't know who to pick. I'm like, okay, which one of you? But then, in hindsight, when I thought about it, it seemed to me that noise came from farther back into the woods. It was loud enough, really, that I thought it was them. It was just a really shrill kind of a whoop sound, and I thought, what the hell's wrong with my troop, But when I looked up, nobody was goofing off, nobody was doing anything, and so you got to wonder, were they watching us? Were they in proximity after we pulled out of there, after maybe observing us? After we pulled out of there, did they move into the area?
And because of that interview, I was able to go to Beachfoot for the final Beachfoot ever
Yeah.
and meet some amazing people.
All right. So
And
that
that would have
brings up
never happened without the podcast.
well, that's where I had that I wanted to ask you of all the things that surprises you about having a podcast. And most of us never get out of the studio or bedroom or whatever it is. What are some of the things that have happened to you as a podcaster that you didn't expect?
No,
Obviously,
the big one is
yeah.
the big one's Beachfoot. I'd never been to the Pacific Northwest,
Yeah.
and I get this opportunity to go hang out with a bunch of Bigfoot people,
Yeah.
And because of Beachfoot, though, I've had a ton of guests come on my show, people that I met there.
Yeah.
You got Angie from Squatch Doing,
Yeah.
she's been on the show twice already. She's going to be in next season. I've already got her recorded. She has another episode.
So I pull up and I get out of the car and I hear a knock. And my first instinct was, no, that's probably somebody building something somewhere. Surely not. So I walk around to the back of my car. I'm getting my backpack out that has, all my stuff in it. And I'm putting it on. Hear another knock. I was like, this time it was from a different direction. I was like, no. And so I shut the hood of my trunk. Shut my trunk. And I'm walking around the car heading to where the metal gate is. And I hear another knock from the opposite direction. So now I've heard 3. And so basically I'm like, okay, I'm surrounded. Because one was from my right, one was from behind me, and one was from my left. I got that backwards. And I was like, something's here because I'm getting knocks. And so I start walking in. And like I said, I was just going to scout. So I'm like, there's an area over there that's dirt. Let me go over there and see if there's any footprints. So I'm walking over there, la, la, la. And I was out here, bam, bam, bam. 3 knocks fast. And I took that as turn around. You're going someplace you're not supposed to be, like danger. And I just start speaking out and saying, okay, I'm sorry. I said, I didn't know where I was going. I will go another direction. And so before I tell the rest of the story, let me preface this on why, because when I was talking to somebody else, they're like, why didn't you leave? And this is why I didn't leave when that happened and when other stuff happened. During that conference I went to in Yakima, there was a presenter up there that was talking, and they were talking about not being scared, that they will test you to see if you run or not. That the speaker was saying, in essence, that they're testing you to see if they can trust you. If you run away, you can't be trusted. But if you stay, you'll gain their respect. You'll gain their trust. So that's, like I said, that was like 2 weeks in between. So that was still fresh in my brain. So that's why I didn't run when I had the 3 happen. And so I'm like, okay, Angie, you just be brave. Just be brave, And so I'm walking. And I'm walking this other direction. I'm like, well, I know the river is right there. The river's a good place to go look for footprints. And this particular river, sometimes it's like a muddy, sandy bottom or shoreline, and sometimes it's just all rock. So I was walking over to the edge of the campground to look down to the river to see what type of the shoreline it had, if it was rock or if it was dirt. That particular shoreline right there was like that sandy, muddy. I'm like, oh, that'll be perfect. Let me go down there, see if I can see any footprints. So I'm walking down there. Now, mind you, I had a selfie stick and my phone was on it, and I was planning on recording if I saw something. But if I didn't see anything, then obviously I'm not going to record nothing. So it wasn't recording, but it was in my hand. So I get down there and I'm walking all along the river, and I'm walking on the shoreline looking for footprints. And as I'm walking, you can kind of see with your peripheral when something's ahead of you when you're walking. As I'm walking, I see that I'm coming to a dead end. Now, mind you, straight on is the dead end. To my left is a fast flowing, deep, ice cold river. Back behind me is this where I came from. And to my right is a tall embankment. The campground is probably 20 feet above me. It's a tall shoreline. You know, there's like a little bluff there that I had to crawl down to get to the river. So as I'm walking, I see this, I have to stop. And as I look up and turn my head, there was still some bamboo that hadn't died out yet from freezing. And there was a den. The bamboo had been woven where it was in the shape of a den. And you could actually like crawl in there. You could tell something had been in there. And as I'm looking, I see bones. I see a deer leg and I see a head, a skull, and I see some ribs. And I'm like, holy cannoli. So I turned on my phone and I'm like, hey, I'm going, this is Angie with What You Doing. I said, I'm here at such and such place looking for footprints. I said, I think I found a den. And as I'm leaning forward to show the bones, I hear this loud noise coming from behind me. And in the video, I have this posted, all my encounters I have posted on YouTube. So you can see the video. As I'm talking and I turn, 'cause I'm hearing that, you see the camera turn. So I'm at the river's edge. There's super tall trees around me, right? This one in particular was probably, I'm horrible with distances. I don't know, but it was a super tall tree. Let's just say that. A massive, at least 6 foot plus branch is flying from the campground over the tree, hitting the tree branches as it's going over, makes it over that tree and starts going down and splashes into the water as I'm standing there going, freaking out.
And then Jeff Davis.
Yeah.
Everybody, I mean, you've heard a lot of Jeff Davis on my show.
Yeah.
That's because he and I spent a lot of time talking at Beachfoot. Got to know each other, and I just really enjoy talking to him.
Yeah. He's a cool guy, listening to him. So there's something I want to bring out, though, is that you told me when you were up there that somebody came to you and said, hey, man, I've been listening to your show.
Yeah.
Tell us that. Tell us that story.
Well, it wasn't quite like that. It was, hey, I know you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, honestly, you know what I said?
What?
Do you watch a lot of porn?
I can see you asking that. So, literally I was going to say this a second ago and I skipped over it, but now that you bring it up, you were sending us some great pictures when you were up there, right? And you sent us a couple of selfies. I just wish you'd have had your clothes on when you did it.
Yeah, I accidentally hit send on those.
Yeah, but no, that's a cool thing to happen, that, somebody recognized you in that community literally halfway across the country.
Right. And not only that, I had my podcast for 6 months. I think at that time I had, I don't know, 200 subscribers on YouTube.
Yeah. All right.
Barely scratched the surface of anything on Spotify.
Yeah.
So it was like, how do you know me? But it was cool. This people that I've never met before knew who I was. And it wasn't somebody that I'd had on the show or anything like that. It was somebody who listened to the show.
It was an organic thing, and it makes it, you go,
Right.
okay, there's that connection. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. It's a pretty freaking nice place. Bet you there's Bigfoot over there. Probably in that little cabin. Wouldn't surprise me one bit. It's the end of the first day at Beachfoot. Pretty cool. Met some pretty cool people. I feel bad for those that are camping because it is freaking cold. Like, it's July. And it's in the 50s. It's pretty freaking cold. It's just July 4th, people. Come on, Oregon. Get it together. Shouldn't be this chilly in July.
but I guess I should have packed some warmer clothes.
It can warm up at any time. It would be nice. It's supposed to be summer, not in Oregon.
But I met some cool people, made some connections. No more tomorrow, hopefully. Hopefully.
Starting day 2. Sans mullet. Don't need it every day because I'm not mething camp every day. And I would say the second coolest thing, and not a lot of people know this yet because it's going to come up on my Patreon here very soon.
Yeah.
I had a guest or a fan contact me and ask me to do a cameo for their granddaughter's birthday.
Oh no, that's awesome, dude.
Yeah.
That is very cool.
So I did the cameo,
Yeah.
and also sent out a mullet and some other stuff, you know, because I just thought it was cool that they'd even asked me to do it.
Right.
And I got a video back of the granddaughter,
Yeah.
kind of acting like meth in camp.
Are you serious? How old was her? How old is this girl?
11.
All right. So, I mean, yeah, influencing them at the right age, right?
Right. But I mean, it was funny. And, you know, she had the mullet on and just acting goofy.
Awesome.
And it was like, that's me.
There you go.
I loved it. You know, that honestly ranks right up there with Beachfoot for me.
No, I agree with that.
Interaction.
But that's that again, that's that real connection that, you know, if you're putting something out there, you want to make those connections. Awesome.
Right. And bringing that up, head over to the Patreon. You're going to start seeing some bonus material. And one of the things is I have a lot of photos and a lot of videos of people in the mullets. And I'm going to do like a little montage. And part of that montage will be that video I received from that fan. So
very good. That's a good story. I'm glad you shared. I didn't know that until just now. Very cool.
Yeah, I just got the video last weekend. So
yeah. All right. So cool. So you got, you know, Beachfoot, you got that kind of interaction. You're making connections with people in the community, outside the community. You're listened to in Denmark.
Yeah, that surprises me.
Yeah.
Denmark is like number 5 on the list of countries that listen to me.
But you know, here's something that's interesting. I was listening, this has been a while, but I was listening to Cryptids of the Corn here a while back, one of their earlier episodes, and they were talking about they had people in Denmark listening to them, and they thought it was interesting. So there must be a huge cryptid community in Denmark.
Yeah, either that or they just really like mullets.
Right. Look at that sexy guy, eh? I don't know if that's a Denmarkian.
Sorry to my fans in Denmark. That kind of sounded Canadian. I'm not sure what it was.
I don't do good impressions. So we love you in Denmark. Thank you for listening. Please forgive me for my stupidity and my ignorance. That showed my ignorance.
I deal with it on a daily basis, people.
Right.
Sorry. But I don't have a co-host, so I had to rely on Alan.
Right. You lucky man, you. I feel I'm doing pretty good. I've reeled it in. I'm drinking only water and trying to make sure I ask you the right questions. So
appreciate that.
Yeah, good. So, all right. So, John, what do you think were the top encounters that you got to speak about with guests?
I would have to say, in no particular order, Brian Goddard, we shot Bigfoot, and it has to be up there. For one, you met Brian. We met him at OBJ. The dude is a cryptid himself.
Right.
And for him to talk about how big this creature was,
Yeah.
that it kind of puts it into perspective, because I've never seen Sasquatch.
Yeah.
To put it into perspective, that here's Brian Goddard, he's 6'8", and he towers over me.
Right. He's
And
massive.
he's talking about this thing that towered over him.
Mm-hmm.
And it just puts it into perspective as how big these creatures are. And the fact that he and his buddy or his cousin shot Bigfoot with a paintball gun.
Right. That's what
come
cracked
on.
me up, was a paintball gun of all things.
When I was 16, my best friend PJ and I encountered what we believe was a Sasquatch. And then that kind of really solicited the interest for life at that point. My parents own about 12 acres just over the Ohio line in Pennsylvania. And there was an old trailer that my dad had put there we used to camp out of. And we were playing paintball one weekend. We got there on a Friday afternoon, I believe, and we were there. At this point in time, we were going into Saturday night. And of course, we thought it would be a great idea to play paintball at night, so we waited for the sun to go down. So like 10, somewhere between 10 and midnight. And at one point, I believe we had laser pointers that we duct taped to the top of these cheap Walmart paintball guns. We could have an easier time seeing each other. Basically, we were just out taking shots at each other for, I'm not sure how long before we went back out at night versus when we had the encounter. But we had taken some shots at each other, and then, of course, we realized if we took our laser pointers off and set them somewhere random, the other person's going to think they're there. So as soon as you see where the paintball comes from, while they're shooting at your laser pointer and you're 5 feet away, you can shoot it where they're shooting from. Unfortunately, we both had the same idea, so that didn't work out too well. And then my intention was to double back, and that's basically what I did. And it took a couple minutes, and I'd gone around. My parents have a pond in the back there, and I'd gone around that pond. There was a trail, and my intention was to hit that trail and see if I could get an idea of where he was, and then depending on what direction I was going to hit. I thought he was still back, going the other way. I didn't realize he had the same idea. And so I thought that I had saw him in the woods as I was coming around the corner to head back towards that trail. I thought, this is great. I slowly creeped up. I stopped. He didn't see me, didn't hear me. I was being as quiet as humanly possible. I had this big shit-eating grin on my face that I was going to get away with something, and I thought I'm dead to rights. Because all I could think about is how much I'm going to laugh as soon as I get the first shot off. And then I started to come towards the trail, and I kind of got myself in a position to aim. And there's no scopes on these things, you know what I mean? They were not high, I don't want to say quality. They just weren't, they weren't fancy. They were just literally just a single shot, kind of deal.
Right.
So I got myself in a spot, found a little, a couple thicker trees I could hide behind, try to get some cover. So I started shooting. I'm like, nothing happened at first. I was like, I swear I'm hitting them. Well, I took another couple shots, and I'm sure I missed some and hit the tree, but nevertheless, I was pretty sure I at least got 1 or 2 shots at him. He should have been jumped up by now because we're both wearing T-shirts, so you're going to feel it,
Oh, yeah.
I just assumed it was him. It never occurred to me. I mean, we were 16, and my parents bought that place, I think, when I was 7. We've never seen another person, we've never seen anything out there other than deer, occasionally wild turkeys, things like that. And in all the years, I've never seen anything. So I started moving in the trail, and this thing started standing up, and it very quickly became obvious that it wasn't PJ. Because I am 6'8" now. I was at that time.
Holy cow.
And as this thing was standing up, it kept going. Very rarely does anyone, eye to eye with me, let alone, it had me by easily 2 or 3 feet. And at that point, I realized it couldn't have been him. Obviously, it was standing up and it was taller than me, and it was dark. So from a distance, I couldn't really tell. It just looked like the figure of a person. And I'm like, well, who else would be out here but us? We're in the middle of nowhere, literally, And once I realized it was taller than me, I took off running. I wasn't interested in sticking around. It scared the hell out of me. So
yeah,
I took off running towards what we call the main trail. All the other trails kind of offshoot it. My friend PJ, I had stopped to kind of look behind me because I didn't hear anything. but I wasn't sure if this thing was following. I didn't know what was going on. So I kind of stopped to turn around, and PJ almost plowed me over coming up the trail doing the same thing, looking behind him. And the two of
so
us,
he saw it too.
he was shooting at it from the other side.
Oh,
So we both thought it was each other, and we ran into each other. It's hard to describe the look on his face. I would imagine it was the same one I had. Once we both realized it for sure wasn't either one of us. And we looked over and we saw something standing there, and it was ginormous. And we were only saw it for about a second because we weren't interested in getting to know it. We took off running, both of us. You know, we're kind of like, what the hell is going on? And we bolted. Tell people I've never ran so fast in my life till that moment. I've never ran as fast since. I probably never will. But I don't get scared easily, but that scared the hell out of me. And part of it was you're 16, and I've been interested in Bigfoot, Yetis, every cryptid, Loch Ness Monster, Mothman, Goatman, Dogman. The list goes on and on and on forever. Probably watching an episode of Unsolved Mysteries in the 80s, probably got me hooked, but I was always obsessed with all that stuff. So I always believed that they were out there. It never occurred to me I'd see one in my parents' backyard, though. You know what I mean? Yeah, so we took off. We just took off running. Yeah, we ran back to the trailer as quickly as possible and flew inside and shut the door and looked out the back window and didn't see anything. And best we can figure, it realized we were more scared of it. And I'm not even sure that it was scared of us, to be honest. You know what I mean? We were up all night talking about it, trying to figure out what we saw. It was taller than me. There's no way around that. And we're both not, he's 6'4". We're not small men. You know what I mean? Even back then, and he's a bigger guy too. So it looked like the two of us standing there, it was wider than us. It was taller than me. This thing was huge. And so we were not interested in sticking around. There was no way. So we went through all sorts of different options. Okay, so somebody's screwing with this. Well, how? When? We've been out there all weekend shooting at each other. We would have seen somebody. You know what I mean? And we've never seen anybody before. And then we're surrounded by mostly farms here. They're hundreds of acres. You can't even see the houses on half of them. They're so far, just the way the line is shaped for where my parents' place is versus where their field starts. They're huge. And it's very, very rural. There's no stoplights or anything where they are. There's the occasional stop sign that, you got to definitely, if it's a 4-way stop, make sure you look because they don't always stop. They're not used to seeing people, if you catch me, you know what I'm saying? So it's like, it's out
I grew up in the country too. I understand that.
So, yeah, so we couldn't figure it out. And we came to two conclusions. Ultimately, there was a 10-foot guy in a gorilla suit, or we saw a Sasquatch. And we decided that it was probably more likely we saw a Sasquatch than a 10-foot guy in a gorilla suit.
Yeah. That's probably, I'd probably put my money on that too. Dude, you're 6'8". You're in like the 1 percentile already. 10 foot, that's not happening.
No. And I know once a year, maybe I'll meet somebody that's taller than I am significantly. Occasionally you'll see somebody who's 6'6", 6'5". You see a few 6'4" guys out there. Nothing crazy. Nothing near me, but every now and again I'll see somebody and they're like 6'11", 7 feet tall. It's so weird looking up at somebody. I'm just not used to it. Most of my life I've looked down, just physically speaking, because everyone's shorter than I am. Once I realized this thing was getting bigger than me, I'm not sticking around to find out what's going on here. And we went through all sorts of possibilities. We talked about it being a bear. Well, it doesn't make sense because, for one thing, there really weren't bears in the area at that time, not at all. And even then, it would only be a black bear, and they're 6 feet maybe, even on standing on two legs. But the other thing is, this thing was fast, it was quiet, and it walked upright. It was moving fast, but it didn't look like it was running. It looked like it was just leisurely kind of coming along. But I would imagine its steps were probably so much larger than ours.
Right.
A black bear is not going to go more than 3 or 4 steps on 2 legs, if that even. It's certainly not going to come down through woods. It's going to fall immediately on all fours. And I see 3 possibilities. Either A, it leaves the area, B, it attacks one of us. C, it attacks both of us. But either way, in B or C, it wins. You know what I'm saying? The black bear's going to win against two 16-year-old kids.
Right.
It didn't do that. And that was one of the deciding factors as well. If it was a predator, it would have came after us. And we agreed that a bear would have been tall enough. It wouldn't have behaved like that.
You don't normally hear about black bears attacking people unless they're cornered. You get between them and their cubs. Maybe you try to steal their food, something like that. I mean, most encounter black bears, they run, and not on two legs.
Yeah, that's the conclusion we came to as well, that if it had been a bear or any kind of predator, really, between the two of us, one of us would have pissed it off enough with paintballs that it would have attacked us, and it would have won. I mean, no question. Right. So the fact that it stopped at some point and it didn't pursue us any further, in my mind, that meant that there was some kind of a different level of intelligence that I would expect to see in an animal, especially if it could tell how afraid we were. I wouldn't think an animal would have hesitated if it thought it had the upper hand.
Yeah. I mean, they didn't realize it was Sasquatch, but they shot Bigfoot with a paintball gun.
Right.
And lived to tell about it.
Right.
Yeah. I would also have to put Rich up there. It was an audio only interview, but he actually had probably the most detail I've ever seen or ever heard in an encounter. And that one was a moment of beauty, is what I called the episode.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I really do feel like it was life-changing for Rich. Because I feel like he had a connection with the Sasquatch.
I was 20 years old, Central New York. We had a farm that was off of Cuba Lake, the east side of Cuba Lake, and I was plowing a field with a Oliver 1855 and a high bottom plow. And I was coming down the north side of the field, and I don't know, y'all know anything about plowing fields, but you're always looking behind you to see where your plow is and where you are in your furrow. And I was turned around to my rear looking back, and when I turned around, there she was. And to be perfectly honest, I had no fear of her, just like she had no fear of me. I didn't have a hair come up on my body. I didn't get scared. I sat there looking at her like she was standing there looking at me.
And how far away were you from her?
I was probably within 50 feet, maybe 75 at the most.
That's close.
She was in this particular cornfield that I was in way back when, and my great-grandfather had dug out this rock and used a 3-team mule team, pulled this rock out of the ground. And he had pulled it over to the gully bank. And this rock was probably about 12 foot around and probably about 6 foot tall. I mean, I remember when I was a child, my grandmother used to take us down there, and we used to have picnics on top of that rock. Me and my little sister would sit on top of that rock and have our peanut butter and jelly sandwiches and our lemonade, and we just sit there and enjoying the day, enjoying nature, listen to the leaves and the breeze and everything else. And that was just what we did when we were kids on the farm. And
so this was a place you were very familiar with. You knew what was what was there, the bushes, the trees, and the shrubs, and things like that.
Yeah, I mean, there was a path that the cows used to walk along the gully bank because my granddad would let the cows down in the gully and, chew on whatever was in the gully, at the time. And so we could always walk the path along the gully bank, and, you knew where you had to be careful so you didn't slip and fall off the edge. And just, it was like back of your hand, So,
Right.
she just stood there looking at me, and she was a very chocolate brown. She had and I know this is going to sound crazy, but she had the prettiest amber eyes I have ever seen on any animal in my life. I don't know of another creature that had those amber eyes. I mean, it was like looking at amber, you would see a wasp that was in. I mean, that's how pretty they were.
Wow.
And her hair was, it wasn't coarse, it wasn't matted. It almost looked like it was groomed. I mean, if that's even possible with a Bigfoot. There was no smell. I mean, because I've heard a lot of people, on different programs say, oh, they have this distinct smell. They have, they smell like rotten meat or musky or whatever. She didn't have a smell to her. And in that general area of central New York, the wind always, I'm not going to say it's always blowing, but when it does blow, it goes west to east. And she was west of me when I seen her, and there was a breeze, and there was no smell. Now, is that normal? I don't have a clue. I don't know if it's normal or not. But she stood there looking at me, and I pushed the clutch in on the tractor and took it out of gear. I shut the tractor off, and I think we looked at each other maybe 20 seconds, 25 seconds, and with the most effortless flow of motion I have ever seen, she turned and glided over the side of the gully bank and was out of sight. And I jumped off the tractor, ran over to the side of the gully bank, and she was nowhere to be seen.
What was on the other side of that gully?
A big gully bank. I mean, the gully banks in that particular area are, some of them are like a dirt gully bank with rock underneath, and in some places it's all rock, like shale rock. And in that particular place on the west side of the gully, it's shale rock, and almost vertical in some places. And but she was gone. She was out of sight. And
so
it
you would have
didn't
been able
take
to see
me-
her climb the other side then.
Oh yeah, because the woods in that particular area of the gully, they're not scattered. I mean, it's thick with woods, or trees, but it's not thick where you can't see through the trees and see through the branches and stuff like that. I mean, it's easy looking. I mean, but yeah, she was gone. She was out of sight, and I couldn't tell you which direction she went to. She didn't leave any kind of footprints or path where she went through the leaves, because it was springtime. It was plowing time, and I think the leaves were just starting to come out on the trees, so there was still fall leaves on the ground, but the leaves weren't rustled, nothing. So where she went, I have not a clue.
Did you get any? Were you able to make out any features on the face?
Her face was pretty much bare. She had hair starting below her lower lip, and covered her lower chin, or her chin and under her chin, through her throat area. But her facial features, and I know this is going to sound crazy, but her facial features are imprinted in my mind. I mean, I can close my eyes and I can see her face. That's how well I looked at her. And she didn't look like an ape. She didn't look like a Gigantopithecus or whatever it is that Jeff Meldrum thinks they are. She, to me, had facial features of a human. I mean, she looked at me just as inquisitive as I was looking at her. And like I said, I was not scared of her. She wasn't scared of me. She didn't intimidate me. I mean, it was just, if anybody was going to have an experience, I wish they could have an experience like I did. It just, now I think about it after 46 years, to me, it's kind of awe-inspiring, because I got to see something that a lot of people haven't seen. And it's just, I consider myself one of the lucky ones, to be honest, because I got to see something a whole lot of people across the world is never going to see. And it's just, I talk about it now, and it makes my hair come up on my arms now, because I'm one of the lucky ones. I was fortunate enough to see a being that we have no clue what they are, where they come from. I have my own thoughts what they are, but it's just, I just feel privileged. I really do. I feel privileged that I got to see her.
Right. Yeah. You keep referring to it as her. Were you able to see breast, or how do you know it was a female?
She had breasts. Don't ask me what size they were, because I don't know. I mean, they could have been 36 triple Ds. I mean, I couldn't tell you. I'm not proficient at telling how big they are, just saying, oh, wow. But she was, and I know this is going to sound weird, but she was strikingly beautiful. If that makes any sense at all. I mean, she was, like I said, the rock was like 6 foot tall. She was between 8 and 9 feet tall. I'm not a good judge of weight, so
it's not nice to judge a woman's weight anyway.
No, it's not. But if I was to guess, I would say between 500 and 700 pounds. And you see some of these women bodybuilders, she was ripped. I mean, seriously ripped. You could see muscles in her legs. You could see muscles in her biceps, in her forearms. You could see them, in her back when she turned. But she had no similarities to a grade 8 that you could ever think of. And I mean, it's like I said, her facial features look human to me.
So
now I don't have.
If you were to take this creature that you saw and give it laser hair removal, would it have looked just like a human, just bigger?
Yeah. Yep. Wow. Absolutely. I mean, she had the wide face, and when she turned to go away from me, she had had a slight conical head, like most pictures you see. The best picture I can describe her to is everybody's seen this new AI picture of Patty from the Patterson-Gimlin photo.
Yeah.
That's what she looked like. And that was a female.
Right.
And I didn't see that picture of Patty until I was in my mid-teens, maybe. I mean, I'm just guessing because I'm not sure, but she like I said, she looked more human.
How you hear a lot of people talk about how wide the shoulders are. Did she have really wide shoulders like you hear in most descriptions?
She did, but you know, you look at a female human and how they have the hourglass type figure.
Yeah.
Most women do. Her figure, she was really wide at the shoulders. But after that wideness, like underneath her arms, kind of tapered down into where it got to her midsection and her rump area, and then that size picked up again, just like an hourglass. And
so not like Patty, because Patty was pretty barrel shaped.
Yeah. I mean, Patty was a beautiful creature. I mean, she is a beautiful creature. And I pray to God she's still alive and she's still around. But this one, she just, like I said, she was beautiful. I mean, just, if you could think of a sexy creature, she was sexy. and I know that sounds absolutely crazy. And I said kind of the same thing to my mom, and my mom looked at me and she said, "Are you nuts?" I said, "No, Mom. No, Mom, I'm not." I said, "You know that I wouldn't come to you with some kind of BS story if it wasn't true." And she said, "Yeah, I know that, son." But she was. It's beautiful, sexy, whatever you want to call it, all wrapped up into one. I mean, she was it. I mean, I can't say enough about, like I said, her deep chocolate fur was just, not that it glowed like, you know, a woman would take care of their hair, but it was just as soft, and to me, it looked just as soft in manicured, maybe not manicured, but groomed to make herself look that way, look sexy, you know, look beautiful, whatever. But those are my own thoughts, my own seeing the beauty in nature. I don't know how. I don't have any other words to say about it. She wasn't ugly.
So our friend Chris calls me up. And he says, "You got to listen to this dude that says he had an encounter with Bigfoot." He goes, "You got to hear it. It's the craziest thing I've ever heard in my life." And I'm like, "Okay." Yeah.
But I mean, you know, I've had some people comment, you know, that his encounter was kind of over the top, but his description is probably the clearest description I've ever taken. You know,
Yeah.
what he saw, the details he was able to see, you know, because it was such a long encounter during the day. You know, there was a lot of information there that you don't hear in a lot of encounters. So that's one of the reasons I put it so high up the list, is because of the detail that he was
Yeah.
able to get on this. And that's it for tonight. Make sure you're looking out for part 3 coming out tomorrow. And if you've had a paranormal encounter you'd like to share, you can email me at mythsandmullets@gmail.com. Make sure you're checking out the descriptions on all my videos. Down below, you're going to find a list of all my favorite podcasts, from Nevermore Hollows, Drunken Cryptids, Chumming with the Spirits, Ghost Gossip, and so much more. I like them. I think you will too. Go over, subscribe, leave a comment on one of their videos. Let them know John sent you. Good night, everyone.
Shadow in the pines, lurking in the dusky air. Bigfoot stomps through the woods like he don't care. Lights in the sky flash green then blue. Aliens descending with a secret or two. Whispers in the breeze, cold fingers down your spine. Ghosts in the graveyard, twisting through time. Eyes wide open in the dead of night. The myths and monsters giving one hell of a fright. Oh, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Oh, Myths, Monsters, and Mullets podcast, spinning wild tales of a future and a past. Hosted by John Methenkamp's fiery soul. He takes us where the wild unknown flows. Down by the bayou, you hear a raspy growl. Swamp gas glowing as the coyotes howl. A UFO